Hello, good morning to you. This is the AM show with me, Bernice Abubeidulansa. Much earlier, you saw Benjamin Akakwo having that very, very important discussion about what's at stake for us when it comes to restructuring our debt on the external front. But it's now time to talk about student leadership here in Ghana. And this morning I've been joined by the new president of the National Union of Ghana Students, NUGS. And he is in the person of Daniel Opongtremi. Good morning to you, Daniel. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm fine, and you?
I'm good. We can't complain, can we? But I must just say congratulations are in order. You take on the very huge task of leading Ghanaian students, not only locally, but internationally. I wasn't part of those who voted, so I'm not too sure how you managed to convince them, but tell us what you did to win this position.
All right. A very good morning to us all. A good morning to all Ghanaian students out there. I'll say a build up to our elections. I think at this critical moment, what Ghanaian students were expecting was a leader who is going to be there for them, a leader who is going to bring all these student leaders on board so that you can collectively fight for a lot of positive advocacies. And over the past few years, I served the union as the Secretary for Education. Okay. And in serving, one of the key things we did was to draw various SRCs closer, draw various facets of the union closer, make them feel that the union belongs to them as well.
Right.
We traveled on the boat, went to basic schools up north to see the challenges they were going through, and also contributed our quota in changing their lives, where even in places like Dambai English and Arabic school, students who used to sit on the floors, lives were changed and now they are sitting on the desk. Our union is known basically for advocacies. And always I say that before we work on advocacies, we should be able to build proper structures for a positive advocacy. So we were looking at building the structures, solving some of the challenges these students are facing. Then moving on, we can be able to have a well-constituted front to fight and also push for a lot of advocacy. So looking at the things we've done in the past, people gain that confidence that if for nothing at all, this particular individual, if you vote for him, we'll be able to push the student cause. And God being so good, we're able to maneuver our way through, and now today I'm the president for the over 12.5 million Ghanaian students in this particular country. And for the past 56 years, what we've been known for is advocacies. We played a pivotal role in the establishment of Get Fund, Student Loan Trust Fund, training allowances, and a whole lot of positive stuff which has been initiated by our front. Now, at this critical moment, what our alumni and all other bodies are also looking up for is a reincarnated energy where we could still push for a lot of advocacies, issues worrying our students. We have that bold, courageous leader who still push for student cause, and that is what we seek to do in this administration. So my vision and mission is just linked to building those structures to see in pushing for these positive advocacies out there.
Interesting. It sounds like you're still on the campaign platform. But I can't let you go without asking this question. And I have been following student leadership, student politics over the years. And one thing that didn't make it attractive for me was if I must say, the takeover of NDC and MPP in student politics. You said that you're trying to bring students together, right? You're trying to create a united force. But I dare ask, which of the sides are you on?
All right. Always I say this particular thing when I'm addressing my students, that the work as a student leader is quite different from finding yourself in any of these political parties. Today, myself, as I'm sitting here, I might be connected to any of these parties, but the work I do for the students is quite distinctive from
But it plays strongly in your politics. In your last elections, right, it was very obvious. I know it's been there've been the undercurrents, but the last elections, not yours, the one before yours, it was very obvious. And I've actually seen one of the aspirants who lost go on to support major political leaders who are vying to be MPs or presidents and that kind of thing. So we can't shy away from it, Daniel.
Sure. Nice.
It's unfortunately become a character of NUGS, which many people believe is not inuring to the success, the united front that you want. So which side are you on, and what are you hoping to do to build that united front that you're talking about in student leadership?
This is what we are looking at. I think one of the first programs we had was the leadership workshop, which was going to psych our members up and also prepare themselves for the future we seek to achieve. It is quite disheartening that some past years you could have NDC MPP deciding where the National Union of Ghana students should go to. They'll be deciding this quota should be taken by the NDC, this quota should be taken by the MPP. In my administration as the 57th NUGS president, it's never going to happen. The activities of the union, the decisions of the union will never be decided by any political party in this particular country. The student front, we own whatever thing we do, and we are not going to give room for any political party to decide who should lead our front or any decision we should take. We don't fear any political party in this particular country, and that decisions and any action that will be taken in this particular union will be solely linked to the activities of student front. So that's how come we are building structures. Recently, we organized over 23,000 SHS leavers at the Black Star Square. We had some skills training. We psyched them up for the future we want to see. On the 21st, we are having all leaders in the country meeting at Sunyani to also discuss all these kind of things. I'm sure that if we're able to sit together, we join our forces together and we plan very well, student activities, student activism, and a lot of things we want to achieve will indeed see the fruition. One thing is, over the past 18 months, even as we speak, nursing trainees have not been paid their allowances, 18 good months. Each and every year, hostel prices keeps skyrocketing. From just last year, a price of 4,000 cedis in a 4-in-a-room hostel now is 8,000 cedis. And every year we've been speaking consistently about it, getting to the media, engaging stakeholders, and nothing is happening. And at a point, you can also link it up to these political infiltrations, because you speak to issues and they tell you, keep quiet. But this particular time, it's never going to happen. Because if you don't speak to certain issues, there's no way critical matters worrying our student front will be catered for. And we want to assure the 12.5 million Ghanaian students in this particular country that this is the kind of leader you are having. All hostel prices, which nobody is talking about, nursing training allowances and other pertinent issues worrying our student front are going to be a thing of the past. And I'm very sure that the structures we are building, if all student leaders, if all facets of the National Union of Ghana students are able to join forces together, I'm sure we will get afar. We've met Dampare just last week to discuss other security matters and most of the things we want to administer.
You mean IGP Dampare?
Yeah, IGP, yeah. And on the 21st, I think we'll be having him at our Central Committee meeting to discuss worrying issues. Just yesterday, we met the Deputy Minister of Education. We submitted a petition. We wanted to embark on a picketing, but per our consultations, we had to engage them first to know the way forward. I think one of our issues has to do with the special school student with disability and all that. I feel over the past years, there's not been any attention given those crop of students. So we wrote a tall petition to the minister, which we submitted yesterday. We'll be sending, we're making the communique and other things on the media, God willing, tomorrow. So we submitted that petition, which is a build-up to the things we are looking up to see. That the government should at least shift some of its attention to these special schools. We should find ways and means to assist them. And anytime you speak about this issue, the National Union of Ghana students takes steps in addressing some of these issues. That's how come we've had a 6-unit classroom block at Kasana and Kana. So now we are talking about government investing in education. Then the National Union of Ghana students have already taken a step towards this particular thing. God willing, Friday we'll be embarking on a donation project to these special schools from our coffers as the National Union of Ghana students. So now, when we submit a petition, it clearly tells you we've already taken an action towards the particular problem we are addressing. So in the coming days, this is what we will be doing. The nursing training allowances and other stuff were also tabled before the minister. The recent flooding at Akosombo and Kita were also addressed in that particular.
And that has affected a lot of students.
Exactly.
You know, school is not in session. For many of them, their colleagues across the country are studying, but they cannot study. So, I mean, basically, what are you requesting from the Education Minister, beyond the call for relief and the call for support, when it comes to education for students in the flood-hit parts of the Volta and Eastern, and even I must say that this even goes beyond the Volta and Eastern region. We know that there are people in the savannah, within the Bono, some of the Bono communities, Pru East and the like, who are affected by flooding of waters feeding into the Akosombo Dam. So it's a two-way thing. But what are you demanding for these students?
All right, so our recommendation is in the 21st century, we can't have the education of our young ones jeopardized because of a misfortune. The works of NADMO shouldn't only be when there's an issue, then they rush to find practicable means to solve the challenge. In the coming days, I feel a feasibility test should be run on these vicinities that have these rivers and all those kind of things, because now we are in a way truncating the lives of these young kids when it comes to education because of this misfortune. So if you are not able to really find an immediate solution to this particular issue, our students will be wallowing in worry in their rooms, waiting that the issue be solved. We are telling our recommendation, as included in the petition we submitted, was that the government should find means. We should be able to, after the feasibility test, we should be able to find ways and means to solve this particular challenge, such that in the coming days, if this is supposed to happen, we won't have our classrooms flooded with students sitting in the house. So government should, as soon as possible, as finding ways and means to mitigate this particular challenge. We should be able to find ways and means that if it happens again, or if it's reoccur, we won't have students sitting in the house for weeks without going to school.
Yeah, but do you think that it's fair, for example, for these students to be examined at the end of the year when they've missed, some of them have had their communities flooded for about 3 weeks? I'm talking to their education per se, not the general welfare of these students. So you're looking at one, they're losing contact hours with their teachers. Some of them have had their classrooms being used as shelters. And so literally nothing is happening. But there's a calendar that must be followed. So what's your suggestion in that regard?
All right, so I think our recommendation when we met the minister was that all students who are affected by this flood should be moved to an immediate school which is closer. And I think the minister or the Ministry of Education is taking steps towards that particular thing as well. So all students should be moved to an immediate, temporal educational facility around, so that they could continue their education, so that they won't just sit in the house and later part will come that we are examining them because they've not really ended the academic year. So they should be moved to an immediate school so that they can continue the process. So once we are done solving this particular challenge, we then transfer them back to their schools so that you can have a smooth academic environment.
Right, there's another thing that interests me when it comes to students, but this is international. The Ghanaian students in Israel, there's unfortunately an incident involving Israel and Hamas, which is causing a lot of disturbance in that part of the world. Have you reached out to Ghanaian students there? How are they coping? What are they saying? And how are we ensuring that they are safe in the midst of all this? That's if they don't want to come home.
All right, this is a build-up to our vision on establishing most of our diaspora blocks in the various places, which in November we'll be having the NUGS US and the NUGS UK. Now we have NUGS Canada working. So in a build-up to this, we'll be having diaspora blocks being set up. Now when this issue of Gaza-Israel thing happened, I think we reached out to the consular in Israel through mail to find out what is really transpiring, and they wrote back to us that Ghanaians are safe, and I think they are not willing to return back to the country. So if they are not willing, that means structures have been put in place. We didn't really base on that. We wanted to also get first-hand information from the student as well. One Mr. Kofu Opon, who went there for an internship on an agric project. We also called him to find out what is really transpiring, and he said the situation in there is very serious, though the government or the consular has taken practicable steps in mitigating the challenge, or even transferring people from the serious areas to where they will be very convenient. So structures are being put in place to get them there, but I think they are, per the info we are getting from the students, some of them are in a very critical condition, that still the consular is giving them those assurances that within the shortest possible time they will move to the convenient place, so that at the end of the day peace can prevail. We've also written to the ministry, the Mufari, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Integration, we've also written to them to also find out what is really transpiring and all that. And we are hoping to have a meeting with them, God willing, Thursday to also conclude on a lot of things.
All right. So if I get you clearly, you don't have an organized body in Israel, as in NUGS Israel, but you've been able to reach out to students there to find out how other students are faring. But there's no organization.
There's no organization in Israel,
for Ghanaian
but we have that connection with most of the. It's a build-up. We are now establishing, as part of building a consolidated front, we are having all these facets, establishing the National Union of Ghana students in all the other sections of the world. So it's a build-up. We will definitely have the National Union of Ghana students in Israel, but there's that kind of connect between ourselves and the student who give us first-hand information on whatever thing that is transpiring, and also working tirelessly to make sure that things are well managed in there.
One of the things you mentioned about your work as NUGS president, facilitating the concerns of Ghanaian students, was a nursing allowance.
Yeah.
That has been one of the heavily politicized aspects of training for teachers and nurses in the country. Realistically, do you think that this is something that we can or we should continue with? Arguments have been raised for and against the decision by this government to reintroduce teacher training allowances. Some say, don't give the money to the trainees, keep the money, rather expand the schools, make it more convenient for teachers and nurses to study. But there are those who say, no, still give them the monies. But we know what the story is, right? I recently hosted some trainees here who say they've not been paid for a very long time. We know what is happening with the economy. It's difficult for government to meet its obligations. Realistically, Mr. Opong-Kyereme, do you think that we should continue with the teacher and nursing training allowances, seeing that these students go with a lot of expectations that are really never met?
All right. First of all, our main issue has to do with the fact that we've instituted training allowances, but payment of these monies has become even problematic for the government. Though it's a good initiative, we cushion these trainees to facilitate the education. It's been 18 months and now they've not been paid, and always we would have to be moving up and down to be pleading with government to pay this nursing training allowance. If we instituted this good course, which is supposed to cushion the students, and we are not even getting the financial assistance or the funds to pay these students, then what is the essence of even having the nursing training allowance or even the teacher training allowances? At about within 4 months, 5 months, allowances are not coming. If it was consistently coming, then on any day we could say that though a good intervention, but the amount of monies are not even coming. So in my own suggestion, if you are finding difficulties in paying these allowances, then it will be prudent that it could be fused into the fees thing so that it's being paid to cater for a lot of things. Because now, when you get to the nursing training allowance, nursing training schools, most of the students who are supposed to be fed, now the allowances come, and now the feeding component has been fused in their school fees, and now their school fees also keeps on skyrocketing.
Right.
Which are now most students are even complaining on how to even pay nursing trainees fees. Now they are paying about 7,000 plus a semester, which is quite worrying and disturbing. So if at the end of the day, the allowances which has been instituted, and now you have to keep fighting for it, and it's not coming. If you don't have the proper structures to really pay for these allowances, then the allowances should be scrapped off and then being used for something else which will cushion or lessen the burdens on these students. Because if you've instituted these allowances, the allowances are not being paid, then what is the essence of even bringing the allowances to being? But if it is brought into being and it's being consistently paid, then we could clearly say that the allowances, though a good initiative, it's also helping lessen a lot of burdens, because it's 400 cedis, which on a normal day should be able to help.
400 cedis a month. 400
cedis a month, yeah. Which should be able to help the students on a lot of things. But you get there, and these 400 cedis a month, for nursing training, 18 good months, it's not in. So the student, have you asked the question, how do the students even fed for themselves on these campuses and all that? So if it's going to delay like this, then let's scrap it off and then find ways and means to in a way lessen.
So you'd rather have them pay less fees?
Yes, I would love them to pay less fees, just like the universities are paying, than bring in the allowances and also skyrocket the school fees, which now most of the students are not even able to attend school because of the high fees that is being paid. Some parents send their kids to the nursing training, the teacher training, thinking that allowances will come so that it lessens the school fees they are paying. Now you get to the teacher training, you get to the nursing training, and those allowances are not coming.
And the fees are
also increasing, which is quite worrying.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but your job includes senior high school students?
Yes.
Because I know we have SRCs in senior high schools. You know what's happening with feeding for students in senior high schools? Are you aware? Has it come to your attention, the state of feeding in senior high schools?
All right. The senior high schools are part of the National Union of Ghana Students. Currently, we are even working on the establishment of other 14 regional SRCs in the various regions. Now we have Ashanti region and also the Greater Accra region. The reason why we are doing this is towards my vision of building an inclusive NUGS so that collectively we could push for a positive advocacy. Just last week, we submitted a proposal to the Director General of GES, hoping that he augments the establishment of the other regional SRCs so that together we could bring all those leaders on board. So when there are issues worrying the front, we could have these leaders coming from all these facets of the regional SRC discussing the progress, discussing the worrying issues and how we could clearly address some of these issues. Matters regarding feeding has been one of the key things we've been advocating for just through the Denisapia Labis administration last year. I think we did, as part of the Justice for Africa thing we've been doing on the 20th of October each and every year, we advocated that the 0.95 feeding component which is being given these schools will be increased so that at the end of the day it also helped. It helps our students out there. When you get to the basic schools, not just even the senior high school alone.
So you're talking about school feeding?
The school
feeding.
The
0.95 is school feeding.
Yeah,
but for the senior high schools, the arrangement is that through the buffer stock company, food supplies are supposed to be given the schools. There are concerns about inadequate supply, inconsistent supply. There are students who have incomplete breakfast because it's not balanced. So you're given porridge without any bread. Sometimes the lunch or the supper doesn't satisfy everyone on the table. So you have a situation where some of the students who are well-to-do say, okay, you know what? I mean, I can eat from my chop box. I know parents or guardians who send 500 cedis to their wards. And this may sound bizarre to some of us, but it's happening. 500 cedis a week, not even a month, a week, because the students are having to buy food from nearby, vendors just so they can eat and have the peace of mind to learn. Closely linked to that is the issue of to review or not to review the free SHS. What is the stance of the NUGS on this? Does NUGS have a stance on the free SHS matter? You are the National Union of Ghanaian Students. I believe you know the situation on the ground, and that's why I just used the feeding as a point of reference. Beyond the feeding, there are also concerns about teachers complaining about not having enough time to rest because they have to run this cycle. In some of the schools where the track system still exists, they have to do all that. So there are so many issues when it comes to the free SHS program. Does NUGS have a stand on free SHS? Should we review it or not? All
right, our stance on free SHS. So it's all linked to the touching of the statutory funds of our education. One, the statutory fund, which is GET Fund. Last year now, GET Fund, as we speak, has been capped. And now the actual amount of money is due the various educational sectors, due the various senior high schools, what have you, is now limited. In the past days where we could have GET Fund, having a lot of structures on the various institutions, GET Fund intervention helped Kumasi Technical University, formerly K Poly, helped UDSWA, helped a lot of senior high schools in this particular country. GET Fund was reaching out in solving some of these pertinent issues in various senior high schools. Now, the main statutory funds of our education, which is the GET fund, has been capped, which the amount of monies which are supposed to be given the various facets of our education has now been limited, which is restraining our educational sector from a lot of good things they are supposed to give our students, which the free SHS is not an exception. Now, our advice, or per the research we've been making, we've come to know that even some of these parents, majority of these parents could even support their kids on the various senior high school campus. But now there's this law that government is providing everything for these students. But when you get there, the resources the government is giving these senior high schools are limited. And one surprising thing is when you get to the senior high schools, when you get to the various places, the headmasters and the leaders of these institutions can't speak to issues, because now immediately you touch on the issues, you are being victimized. You speak to the issues, and now you get a call from up there that you are not supposed to do so. So when you get closer to the headmasters, they'll be like, they are worrying issues, but in quote unquote, they'll say, "Who said anyone say?" Because immediately you speak about it, either you are transferred or you are sent to other places. So we are sitting on a time bomb. People are having issues in these senior high schools that they feel genuinely we should address, but they can't speak to issues. When you speak to issues, people feel you are on the other side, and others also feel you are against the government. No, we clearly understand the situations we find ourselves in this particular country, but on any day, our education in this particular country cannot be undermined. I know this particular government really loves educational matters and want to shift most of his attention in building the necessary resources for a proper education. So we are just informing the government that if possibly in the free SHS policy, there could be some adjustment in the coming days so that it could lessen the burden on the government. Though the government is doing extremely well, looking at the STEM staffs they are bringing up, the TVET, the new buildings they are putting up to really change the facet of our education, I feel that some attention should be given to these senior high schools. Else, you complete school as a free senior high school student, you come out and you are not having anything within you. You are virtually empty. So we should give some attention how best we could solve the challenges in there. It's a very good project. It's a very good policy that this particular government rolled out. But that notwithstanding, there are issues in there that needs to be tackled. And if these issues are tackled, I feel we will do well in this particular country.
So you want it to be reviewed? Yes,
the free SHS should definitely be reviewed. Normally, when a policy is rolled out, it's a good policy. Once it's ongoing, you get to know the challenges we are being faced, or the challenges it has faced. And after noticing the challenges, then we find how we will be able to mitigate those challenges. And now it's clear. Almost every Ghanaian have seen some of the issues in the free SHS policy, which though a very good policy, we've seen the little challenges in there. So now the next thing we have to do is the government should sit and review, which on any day, the National Union of Ghana students should not be included. One thing I was telling the minister
should not be included or excluded.
Should not be excluded in this particular process, sorry. One thing I was telling the minister is, if indeed we say the future is youth, then whatever any decision that is being taken in this particular country, that is for the youth. The National Union of Ghana students should be included in the policy making, in the policy drafting, so that we could be able to also give a clear information on what is really happening on grounds to the government, so that it could favor us positively. But if the decisions are being taken and we are not included in the whole process, it's going to affect most of the things we do.
Right. Now, I'm just looking at your website, and your big vision or mission includes considering the interest of all Ghanaian students home and abroad. But there's something that I like in the write-up in the introduction of NUGS, which says that the union is a democratic, non-partisan and progressive mass movement of students, both in Ghana and abroad, championing a common cause. We are also committed to advocating to inculcate a high degree of patriotism and nationalism in our students to prepare them adequately for the future of our country. About 2 days ago, I was having a conversation with two engineers from the Institution of Engineers, and they're having a public lecture on national values, professional ethics, and I think the conclusion of the problem is that many Ghanaians do not have the values that allow societies to thrive, i.e. honesty, i.e. hard work. So apport is a big deal in Ghanaian schools, right?
That's true.
Cheating is a big deal in many Ghanaian schools. Apart from a few private universities I know of that do not even have invigilators. There are students in Ghana today who write research work, and on the first page of their research paper, they say that they make a declaration which says, I did this on my own, and append their signature to that. Many of them actually lie. Now, these young people will become leaders. Yeah. As we have seen in times past, many of the student leaders end up in one political party or the other. You become leaders, you become MPs, but there's no value of hard work. There's no value of respect. There is such an endemic problem of corruption, which doesn't start when people sit in offices when they are 30 plus. It starts right from when they are students. I just want to know, as NUGS, do you even consider this a problem? Do you see the bigger picture relating to student examination? Go to WASI centers. Invigilators are helping students. It's so appalling sometimes. And so you have people coming out with degrees, coming out with certificates that they cannot even show work for. That is troubling.
It's good you brought up this question, because over the past 1.5 years, we've been fighting and working on this particular thing. Currently, we are working with TETL on rolling out something we call Ghana into our curriculum system. Right. Because it is worrying. Just last year, some students who wrote their WASI in a particular senior high school, and now teachers were strict, no apport or whatever thing was allowed. And now, right after the exams, the students went outside and destroyed the vehicles of these teachers.
Can you imagine that?
Which is quite worrying, that if indeed we want a proper future, now we sit back and now people are even afraid of others not, external bodies not instigating our students to really work on a coup or something. Then we should be able to take pragmatic steps in finding solutions to this particular challenge. In the past years, where could have students willingly volunteering on a lot of things without even seeking to get any funds from any place. I remember those times when we were young, when you see an old woman carrying something, you rush quickly to help this particular woman carry their stuff to those places. But in the current situation, all those things are not happening again. So we sat down as a research team, researched into the main reason why this is happening and how we can find practicable solutions in solving this particular challenge. And that came about the Ghana thing, which is trying to establish some various clubs in various senior high schools, which will be training these kids on a lot of values, a lot of honor, a lot of respect, volunteering, and all those kind of things that we are hoping to roll out. We'll be setting up a youth advisory board as well, which will be putting up ideas on how we could have a very strong curriculum which has to do with the Ghana thing we'll be rolling out. So in the coming days, the National Union of Ghana Students is taking conscious effort in finding solutions to this particular challenges. So we are not going to sit aloof for this particular thing to happen. It's all geared towards the build-up thing we are hoping for the National Union of Ghana Students in the coming days. So we are working closely with TETL, which is a subsidiary group under GES, to put up this particular structure to help solve some of these challenges we keep seeing in our senior high schools and even the other places as well.
Daniel Opontreme, thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully, at the end of your tenure, we can sit again to talk about the successes you've been able to chalk and the challenges and how you hopefully will overcome all of them. But thank you so much, especially on the bit of getting Ghanaian students to be more patriotic and ensuring that we have value system in students who will end up becoming leaders. Daniel Opontreme is the NUGS president, and he's been sharing with us what he's been doing so far since he took over. I've been seeing all your messages on social media. Thank you so much for joining us via Facebook and sharing those comments with us. I see that a lot of you are friends of Daniel. You support his ideas. Ahmed Asante says, nice idea on the trainee allowances. He's got 3 likes to that. And then Dangote, the blogger, says, good submission, Mr. President. And Adonoi Emmanuel says, well answered, Mr. President. The free SHS needs a review. And Ishmael says, dear President of NUGS, your articulate and insightful submission on Ghanaian students' welfare and other critical matters is commendable. All right. And Franklin says, well answered, His Excellency. So there are just a lot of people who support, especially your response on free SHS, which the NUGS president says needs a review. And we've also been touching on the teacher and nursing trainee allowances, and he believes that if the problem it was meant to solve is now being compounded, i.e. students have to pay more fees, then there's no point having the trainee allowances in the first place. After all, it's not even coming anyway. So we will stay in touch with him, and we will also be bringing you more on the welfare of Ghanaian students here on the AM show. But it's now time for us to bring you AM Business Ketsi EcoBank The Pan-African Bank. Today we tell you how Lakeside Estate developers of the Lakeside Hill project are poised to offer you, our potential customer, amazing offers at this year's EcoBank Journeys Habitat Fair.